Only in Kentucky can a single county have a river valley named Hell for Certain, and also be the site where a disgraced president made a pretty bizarre first public appearance after resigning from office. Hi, I'm Michael, and I'm learning a little bit more about Kentucky, one county at a time, all 120 of them. And today, I'm learning about Leslie County. Located in southeastern Kentucky, Leslie County covers about 404 square miles of the heavily dissected Cumberland Plateau. It sits right in the heart of the eastern Kentucky coalfield. The elevation changes here are dramatic. The northern ridgetops sit around 1,400 feet above sea level, while the southern ridges near the Harlan County border rise sharply up to 2,200 feet. The highest point is Peters Knob, standing at 2,600 feet, which serves as a massive natural dividing line between the Kentucky and Cumberland River drainage basins. And the lifeblood of the county is the middle fork of the Kentucky River, which bisects the region from south to north, carving a valley nearly 1,000 feet below the forested uplands. For the early pioneers, this terrain was incredibly beautiful, but mostly unforgiving. The steep ridges made building traditional wagon roads practically impossible in the 19th century, and families relied almost entirely on steam travel and narrow footpaths just to communicate with their neighbors. By the late 1870s, the residents living in the deep isolation of the Middle Fork Valley were understandably exhausted by the long, treacherous journeys required to reach the courthouses of the surrounding districts. So, on March 29, 1878, the Kentucky General Assembly officially carved Leslie County out of Clay, Harlan, and Perry counties. They named the new municipality in honor of Preston Hopkins Leslie, governor of Kentucky from 1871 to 1875, successfully navigating the state through the bitter, chaotic years of Reconstruction. The county seat was established exactly at the mouth of Rockhouse Creek on land originally settled by the Sizemore family, who were of mixed Native American and Anglo heritage. The town was named Hayden, honoring State Senator John Hayden, who had served as one of the principal commissioners tasked with surveying the new rugged county borders. Because the landscape prevented the establishment of traditional town grids, communities in Leslie County formed as loose networks of homesteads clustered around specific creeks or rural post offices that were created. So, for example, you have the town of Cutshon, a name rooted in local pioneer folklore about early travelers who would severely accidentally cut their legs and shins on sharp ice and submerged rocks while trying to ford the treacherous creek. You have Thousand Sticks, named after pioneers who observed a landscape dominated by hundreds of dead, stick-like tree trunks, which were likely the remnants of a massive ancient forest fire. And then you have Hell for Certain. It's a creek and a community that holds one of the most famous names in all of Appalachia, at least in my opinion. Legend suggests that a weary, exhausted traveling missionary was trying to navigate the incredibly steep terrain and the dangerous rushing waters, and so when he finally looked around at the brutal landscape around him, he declared that the area was Hell for Certain. Established in 1878, Hayden was named, honoring State Senator John Hayden, who had been instrumental in fighting for and drawing the new rugged county borders of Leslie County. Today, Hayden holds onto a much more colorful civic identity, proudly billing itself as the Redbud capital of the world, celebrating the vibrant pink and purple blooms that completely blanket the surrounding Appalachian hillsides every single spring. In 1925, a brilliant and fiercely determined nurse named Mary Carson Breckinridge rode into the mountains. Breckinridge came from a highly influential aristocratic family. Her grandfather was a U.S. vice president, but following a tragic premature death of her two young children, she channeled her profound grief into a lifelong mission to help improve pediatric and maternal health care. She surveyed the massive, roadless expanse of Leslie County, and she recognized that the local reliance on untrained granny midwives, combined with widespread poverty and an absolute lack of doctors, was resulting in catastrophic maternal and infant mortality rates. So she wanted to do something about that. She decided to completely revolutionize the system. Breckinridge established the Frontier Nursing Service. She brought in a staff of highly trained professional nurse midwives who became famous globally as the nurses on horseback. And because the terrain was entirely impassable by automobile, these incredible women traveled through the mountains in blizzards and floods and dead of night. Their saddlebags were packed with essential medical supplies, and they rode deep into the isolated hollers to deliver babies and treat the sick. The Frontier Nursing Service charged a nominal fee of just $1 for a year of coverage, or $5 for childbirth. But if a family couldn't pay, they freely accepted bartered goods or labor, ensuring that no patient was ever turned away. Within its first 50 years, the Frontier Nursing Service delivered over 17,000 babies with only 11 maternal deaths. That mortality rate was exponentially lower than the national average and vastly superior to the wealthiest urban hospitals in the country. And during World War II, Breckinridge adapted again establishing the Frontier Graduate School of Midwifery in Hayden to train American nurses. Today, that institution operates as Frontier Nursing University, and Mary Breckinridge Log Estate at Wendover is a National Historic Landmark preserving a legacy of absolute compassion and grit. During the Great Depression, that exact same spirit of rural outreach birthed another historic institution. In 1934, the community of Wootton became home to the very first WPA Works Progress Administration pack horse library in the state of Kentucky. Dedicated local women would saddle up their horses and ride deep into the mountains, delivering books, magazines, and reading materials to isolated families, proving that education could reach the very ends of the dirt roads. For its first several decades, the economy of Leslie County relied entirely on subsistence farming and the highly dangerous profession of timber rafting. It wasn't until 1933 that commercial coal production officially commenced. Despite the later start, the coal industry rapidly monopolized the local economy. The county sits over massive reserves of high volatile coal, and by 1957, coal mining employment hit an all-time high with over 2,000 men working underground. But the inherent dangers of that Appalachian coal economy were tragically realized in December 1970. Just after midday on a freezing Wednesday, a massive coal dust explosion ripped through the interconnected shafts of the Finley Coal Company mine located alongside Hurricane Creek just outside of Hayden. Of the 39 men working underground at that mine at the time of the blast, 38 were killed instantly. The sole survivor was a beltman named A.T. Collins, and it's only because he had miraculously stepped toward the mine portal near the belt line at the exact moment of ignition, and the blast wave hurled him over 60 feet out of the mine and down the rocky slope, leaving him battered but thankfully alive. The Hurricane Creek mine disaster exposed severe systemic failures in federal mine safety enforcement. The tragedy occurred exactly 1 year to the day after the passage of the Federal Coal Mine Health and Safety Act of 1969, which was explicitly intended to prevent such explosions. Investigations revealed that the mine had been cited for dozens of safety infractions, including the massive accumulation of highly combustible coal dust and also dangerous electrical hazards. Yet the critically understaffed federal agencies failed to shut down the operation. Post-blast investigations revealed that the explosion was triggered by the use of an illegal detonating cord used in blasting. The deceased miners ranged in age from teenagers to men in their 60s. They left behind 38 widows and over 100 fatherless children. The local grade school gym in Hayden was converted into a temporary morgue where traumatized family members gathered to identify their loved ones. And in 2011, the community finally opened a beautifully somber memorial on Hurricane Creek Road. The intense, fiercely independent culture of Leslie County has also fostered a deeply entrenched brand of Appalachian republicanism. This unyielding partisan loyalty set the stage for one of the most surreal and fascinating political events in the county's history. In July of 1978, disgraced former United States President Richard Nixon made his very first public appearance in 4 years. Following his resignation amid the Watergate scandal in 1974, Nixon had lived in a pretty much self-imposed exile in California, declining tens of thousands of invitations to speak. He ultimately chose Hayden, Kentucky for his grand return. It's because that the invitation was extended by Leslie County Judge Executive C. Allen Munsey, who asked Nixon to dedicate a newly constructed recreation center that was funded largely through Nixon's own presidential revenue sharing program. Nixon correctly calculated that the clannish loyalty and fiercely republicanism of the mountain community would afford him a warm, highly uncritical reception. And he was right. He was met by an enthusiastic, cheering crowd of over 1,000 local residents. And actually, this bizarre intersection of national controversy and isolated mountain politics became the central subject of the brilliant 1982 documentary film called The Big Lever, produced by the Appalachian media organization Appalshop. By the way, Judge Munsey, who had proudly hosted Nixon, was later indicted and convicted of conspiracy to commit mail fraud related to suspicious absentee ballots. Yet, his grip on the local electorate was so strong that he actually won a primary election while his federal case was still on appeal. Despite its small population and historic geographic barriers, Leslie County has produced a remarkable array of figures who have achieved massive national prominence. In the military, the county proudly honors Willie Sandlin. He's the only Kentuckian to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor during World War I. On a battlefield in France in 1918, Sandlin single-handedly advanced on and destroyed 3 German machine gun nests, killing 24 enemy combatants. In the world of athletics, the county produced Tim Couch. He set national high school records for passing yards and touchdowns at Leslie County High School. And as you may or may not already know, he went on to become an elite quarterback at UK and was drafted first overall by the Cleveland Browns in 1999. The county also birthed the legendary Osborne brothers, Bobby and Sonny, who were born in Hayden. They're the voices behind Rocky Top. The county also produced Roger Bowling, a highly influential Nashville songwriter who penned massive crossover country hits, including Kenny Rogers' Lucille and Coward of the County. To celebrate this rich legacy, the county hosts the annual Osborne Brothers Hometown Festival every August, drawing national bluegrass acts and raising vital funds for the local volunteer fire departments. Today, Leslie County stands at a critical, incredibly difficult socioeconomic crossroad. The near total collapse of the coal industry over the last few decades has left a massive economic void. The county faces severe poverty rates and highly concerning public health trends. It consistently ranks in the bottom tier of the U.S. counties for life expectancy, a complex crisis driven by systemic poverty and a lack of access to advanced medical infrastructure. As the county is forced to transition away from a pure extraction-based economy, its path forward relies heavily on the preservation of its unique cultural and natural heritage. So, that's Leslie County. What'd I get wrong this time?